In a world of deeply interconnected economies, where the movement of goods, services, and capital can shift the fortunes of millions overnight, a trade war between Canada and the United States sends shockwaves far beyond North America, impacting businesses, workers, and consumers around the globe. When these two economic giants clash, the globe feels the tremor, as their decisions can alter the direction of global trade and investment. The recent rise in tariffs and border tension isn't just a North American story. It's a global event with far-reaching consequences. It's a headline that matters for anyone who relies on stable markets and international cooperation, from multinational corporations to everyday families. The Canada-US relationship is a cornerstone of the global economy, built on decades of trust, shared values, and mutual benefit. Hundreds of billions in goods, services, and investments cross the world's longest undefended border each year, fueling prosperity on both sides. These flows power jobs and supply chains across continents, supporting industries from manufacturing to technology, agriculture to retail. When that relationship sours, investors and governments worldwide worry about ripple effects on trade, security, and diplomacy, as uncertainty can quickly spread. This standoff sets a precedent, showing how even the closest partnerships can be tested under pressure. If close allies can turn on each other, what does that mean for others facing similar pressures? It raises questions about the stability of alliances everywhere. The outcome will influence not just their citizens, but how global powers negotiate and cooperate in the future, shaping the rules of international engagement. That's why this story matters, not just for North America, but for the entire world watching closely. The roots of the current dispute stretch back to late 2024, a period marked by mounting political tension and economic uncertainty on both sides of the border. Donald Trump, then president-elect, made headlines by calling for a sweeping 25% tariff on all Canadian goods, arguing that tougher action was needed on border security and trade imbalances. The threat sent shockwaves through Ottawa, rattling Canadian officials and business leaders who feared the economic fallout of such a drastic move. Canada, whose economy is deeply intertwined with that of the United States, suddenly faced a looming crisis that threatened jobs, investment, and the stability of key industries. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau responded with urgency, quickly boarding a plane to Mar-a-Lago for direct, high-stakes talks with Trump in hopes of diffusing the situation before it escalated further. Trudeau, joined by Public Safety Minister Dominic LeBlanc, signaled the gravity of the moment, emphasizing the need for swift and decisive action. "We take these threats seriously," Trudeau told reporters, underlining his commitment to finding a solution that would protect Canadian interests while maintaining a strong relationship with the U.S. But Trump remained resolute, doubling down on his demands for tougher Canadian border measures and refusing to back down in the face of Canadian concerns. In just the first 9 months of 2023, the U.S. imported about $435 billion in Canadian goods, highlighting the enormous stakes for both economies. Tariffs on this scale would not only hit Canadian businesses hard, but also drive up prices for American consumers, risking job losses and supply chain disruptions across North America. Both leaders understood that any escalation would mean mutual pain, with consequences that could ripple through both nations' economies for years to come. From this tense and uncertain beginning, the stage was set for a dramatic cross-border showdown that would test the resolve of both governments. It was a test of leadership, diplomacy, and economic might, one that would shape the future of Canada-US relations and set the tone for international trade in the years ahead. As 2025 began, President Trump made good on his threats, setting the stage for a dramatic escalation in North American trade tensions. He announced a sweeping 25% import tax on Canadian steel and aluminum, a move that sent shockwaves through both industries and signaled a new era of economic confrontation. "We will protect American jobs and secure our borders," Trump declared to a cheering crowd, emphasizing his administration's commitment to reshaping trade relationships in favor of the United States. The message was clear: America first, even if it meant risking a trade war with its closest ally and economic partner to the north. Prime Minister Trudeau answered before Parliament, his tone resolute. These tariffs are entirely unjustified. Canada will respond firmly to protect our workers and our national interests. Trudeau's cabinet quickly warned of retaliatory tariffs on a wide range of American goods, signaling that Canada would not back down easily. Canada is the largest foreign supplier of steel and aluminum to the U.S. Retaliation could hurt American manufacturers, disrupt supply chains, and threaten jobs on both sides of the border. Opposition parties in Canada, including Pierre Poilievre's Conservatives, promised matching tariffs and urged unity, calling for a bipartisan front to defend Canadian interests. Quebec's premier questioned whether Trump truly wanted to rely on China for strategic metals instead of a trusted neighbor, raising concerns about North American security and long-term economic stability. The message was unmistakable. This was not just Trudeau's fight, but a battle for Canada's economic sovereignty, uniting citizens, workers, and politicians across the country. In the U.S., Trump's supporters cheered the tough stance, but critics warned of higher prices, job losses, and trade chaos that could ripple through the economy. The war of words quickly became a full-blown political battle, with real economic consequences looming large for families, businesses, and the future of U.S.-Canada relations. By March 2025, the standoff was reality. The U.S. imposed a 25% tariff on Canadian steel and aluminum. Canada responded with tariffs on U.S. goods, like agricultural products and machinery. The trade battle threatened industries on both sides of the border. In 2024, two-way trade topped $750 billion. Nearly 80% of Canadian exports go to the U.S., and millions of American jobs depend on cross-border supply chains. Major sectors affected: automotive, construction, food, and energy. New tariffs pushed up costs for manufacturers and consumers, supply chains slowed, and some factories warned of layoffs. Both leaders dug in. Trump insisted on border security. Trudeau vowed to defend Canada's interests. Despite calls for compromise, neither side was ready to blink. The result: a tense economic and political standoff. No easy end in sight. The early effects of tariffs were quickly felt. Canadian steel and aluminum producers faced canceled orders and falling revenues. Some companies cut shifts or froze hiring. In the U.S., car makers and construction firms warned of rising costs and possible job losses. Shoppers saw prices creep up on vehicles and appliances. Some Canadian regions, especially Ontario and Quebec, relied heavily on cross-border manufacturing. American border towns, dependent on trade and tourism, also suffered. Small businesses struggled with extra costs, and farmers feared retaliation. Economists warned that a prolonged dispute could slow growth and fuel inflation. Both countries stood to lose if compromise couldn't be reached. The trade and border crisis sent shockwaves through both countries' political systems. In Canada, Trudeau's government faced pressure from unions and industry to stand firm. The opposition called for strong retaliation and blamed Trudeau for not predicting Trump's actions. Canadians rallied together in defense of their national interest. In the U.S., Trump's base applauded the tough stance, but business leaders sounded alarms. Moderate Republicans and most Democrats argued the tariffs would hurt American workers and families. Public opinion was split. Many supported border security, but worried about higher prices and lost jobs. In Canada, anger at U.S. bullying mixed with anxiety about a trade war's long-term effects. The standoff raised the stakes for upcoming elections and tested both leaders' resolve. Trade wasn't the only battleground. As the tariff dispute escalated, border security became a flashpoint. The Trump administration expanded Joint Task Force Alpha to cover the northern border. Attorney General Pam Bondi said the goal was to crack down on drug cartels and human traffickers. Federal agencies like the DEA, FBI, and ATF were pulled in, with new resources sent to border states. The message: the U.S. would treat the northern border with the same toughness as the South. This move, popular with some voters, increased tensions with Canada, who saw it as an overreaction. Canada accelerated investments in border technology, biometric screening, advanced sensors, and new protocols. Trudeau's government wanted to show Canada was a responsible, modern border partner. On both sides, the line between economic dispute and security crisis blurred. The stakes kept rising. Experts across industries and think tanks have raised red flags. Many economists warn the tariffs could trigger a recession if left unresolved. These are not isolated measures, said Dr. Lisa Chen, a trade analyst in Toronto. They threaten the entire framework of North American trade. U.S. business groups echoed these fears, urging negotiation over escalation. Security experts questioned the effectiveness of new border measures. Some argued criminal networks would adapt, while travelers and businesses faced more delays and costs. You can't solve the border crisis with muscle alone, said a former U.S. customs official. It requires cooperation, not confrontation. Political scientists warned of long-term damage to Canada-U.S. relations. Trust, they said, is hard to rebuild once lost. Some experts hoped for negotiation, perhaps with mediation from international partners. But the consensus, the risks of escalation far outweigh the benefits. The future remains uncertain. Will compromise come, or will the standoff deepen economic and political wounds? The clash between the United States and Canada is more than a dispute over tariffs. It's a test of alliances, a challenge to economic stability, and a warning for global cooperation. As tariffs bite and border security tightens, millions feel the consequences worldwide. This crisis shows how quickly relationships can unravel, even among trusted neighbors. Politics, economies, and security are deeply intertwined. The Northern Standoff is not just their problem, it's a warning for us all. What happens between these two nations will shape the world for years to come.